Okay, we are back. I'm very excited to do these. Number two. So this week I've been fascinated with consuming versus creating. Because last month I went deep into a funk of consuming. Consuming, researching sneakers, Nike AD, Kobe 11s, Nike Lab, uh, watching videos on electric skateboards, learning all about them, and also microphones, directional, omnidirectional, lapel microphones. It's pretty much what I did all day, every day for about a month. Consuming. So here's what it made me think of. I met this guy about a year ago, and he told me about his son when his son was 18. All his son did was watch vlogs about video games, anything he could on video games, and the rest of the time he was just playing video games. So he approached his son and told him, why don't you have a vlog on video games? Why don't you tell people what you think about video games? Why don't you tell people the tricks that you've learned? And stuff like that. Because he brought up to me that his whole thing in life is you're either consuming or creating, and there's kind of no in between, which is very interesting to me for just this week, though. So what ended up happening was his son is now 21, has moved out of the house, and now makes a living off of his vlog talking about video games. What I love about it is that he still plays video games. He took something that was just consuming, something that he used to forget about his real life or to not focus on real life. He uses his consuming to now help him be creative, which is really cool how he switched the whole thing around. And it reminds me a lot of, I meet a lot of people who, when I talk to music, when I talk about music with them, they always bring up how they haven't started yet, but they're planning on starting when they get the right equipment, when they get that guitar that they want. Once they can save up for that software, then that's when everything's going to start for them. And all they do is consume all day on getting the right equipment. And they never ever end up doing anything. And even if you do, here's what's funny about that. This is a little side note here. Even if you do research all that stuff about how you have to have the right equipment, you have to have that right sound, and eventually you do get that equipment and you do get that sound, basically you are researching that sound based off of somebody else that you've heard before. Otherwise, you couldn't research it because nobody else is doing it yet. So the problem with sounding like somebody who is already out there typically means that you are 3 to 4 years behind the music industry. So if you just think about it, the person that you're trying to sound like probably got signed 3 or 4 years before, or let's even say 2 years before you ended up hearing their music. So the record company heard that sound, sign them. Year, 2 years later, release that. You heard that. You love that sound. You saved up for all the equipment. You got it. Now you made music sounding exactly like that person. And then, 4 years later, 3 years later, you submit that back to the record company. They've already heard that sound 3 to 4 years ago. So ironically, waiting to get the best equipment or the equipment that you think you need is actually going to, I think, hurt you creatively. Instead of working with what you have and creating your own sound. Because you're forced to create your own sound when you don't have the things that you think you need. You don't really have an option. Which is why some of the most popular guitars today are popular. It's not because they were popular back then. It's because they're the cheapest back then. And that's all that musician could afford. And that became the sound that was on the record. And then people want to recreate that sound. So eventually that guitar became popular to get that sound. But when it first started off, that's all that person could afford. So waiting and saving up to be creative, I think ends up hurting you. But to get back to my other point, most people who tell me they're waiting or saving, they end up not doing anything. Because they're using all that waiting and saving as a way of consuming so they don't have to deal with the reality that they really want to create and they're too afraid to create, or they're too afraid to change their lives. So when they have that thought, they jump into researching different equipment, different blah, blah, blah. For me, it was sneakers and electric skateboards. And this is not black and white. I get it. If you consume, if you go see a movie, if you want to play video games, get away from your life for a little bit, I get that. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about every free moment you have alone, instead of dealing with what's really going on in your life, you jump into something and you just consume, so you don't have to deal with what's really going on. That's what I'm talking about. So I meet people all the time, and the first thing I tell them is you just do it. Just start creating. Start making stuff with whatever you have. Money is usually never an issue in any of this. It really isn't. Even if you have the bare minimum, if you're working really hard and creating, someone will see how hard you're working and step in. And if you do need something, we'll probably provide that for you. Because they want to be a part of your work ethic and how awesome you are. So that's another thing. When I hear people complain about not having enough money to do it, or blah, 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 it has nothing to do with the creative process at all. And like I said before, if anything, I really think it hurts you if you had access to everything you needed. Because you just end up, because you don't know enough, you just end up jumping on somebody else's sound or repeating what somebody else already did. And that's it, I think. I'm not really sure how to end this. I guess this might be the way. So yeah, consuming versus creating. That's it, man. Subscribe, like, let me know what you think in the comments. And I'll talk to you guys in 1 week.